Yeah, you can absolutely change it. And it's so normal for that to be happening, to be with one person and then to be stuck in one pattern, go find another person, be stuck in the same pattern with them. So it's not about our external partners. It's more about whatever we're bringing to the relationship in terms of our conditioning, our preferences, our habits. It's the idea that previous relationships and experiences in our life influence the ones that we're having now. So whatever you experienced in childhood is likely to turn up again in your romances. And this plays out in ways that break down by attachment style. So you can probably recognize yourself as being one of these types of person in the style that you relate to other people. And there are four of them, the first of which is healthy, secure attachment. But there are two main types of insecure attachment that are anxious attachment and avoidant attachment.
Welcome to Linda's Corner, where we bring more hope, healing, and happiness to the world. My name is Linda Bjork, and today we're going to be talking about attachment issues. I'm delighted to welcome Jack Bohannan. Jack is a relationship and intimacy coach and the host of the Polarity Unscripted Podcast. You can learn more about Jack at his website, jackbohannan.com, and I'll include that link in the show notes. Welcome, Jack. I'm so glad that you could join with me today.
Hey, Linda. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me again. We tried and it didn't record, and now we're trying again. I appreciate your persistence so much. I appreciate you so much. And I love that mission.
Do you know what? Thank you. And what you just said matters, because here we are, we're in a state of a retake where you didn't even need to say that because nobody would ever know. And yet I'm glad that you did, because we are not perfect and our relationships are not perfect. And that's actually kind of what we're going to be talking about today, is how to take something that maybe wasn't perfect and do some retake and make it better. So in relationships, sometimes we find ourselves in repeating patterns. Like you and your partner might be having the same kind of argument over and over again. And maybe you even just give up, break up, find somebody new. And then with your new partner, you find out you're still having the same kinds of issues. And it can be really frustrating. So I'm grateful that you're here today to help us understand why that can happen and what we can do to change it.
Yeah, you can absolutely change it. And it's so normal for that to be happening, to be with one person and then to be stuck in one pattern, go find another person, be stuck in the same pattern with them. So it's not about our external partners. It's more about whatever we're bringing to the relationship in terms of our conditioning, our preferences, our habits. And my clients, I'm a relationship coach, and my clients are mostly women experiencing anxious attachment. And that crowd knows a lot about attachment theory because their tendency is to learn more and more to try to fix the problem. But for your audience, if they need a refresher in attachment theory, we can do that real quick. What do you think?
Yes.
Do we need that?
Let's talk about it. Yes. And before we even move on, I just want to bring up a point that you mentioned, and that is, in our relationships, man, we always think it's the other person's fault. And what you just said is both frustrating and empowering. Frustrating because you're saying that my patterns, my expectations are contributing to the problem. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear it's all the other person's fault. Dang it. But by finding out that there is something about me, it also puts power in my hands. It means I can do something about it. So sorry, people, there's bad news and there's good news with the truth. It is what it is. So now let's give a refresher course for people who maybe aren't familiar with attachment theory. Can you go over those real quick?
Yes. It's the idea that previous relationships and experiences in our life influence the ones that we're having now. So whatever you experienced in childhood is likely to turn up again in your romances. And this plays out in ways that break down by attachment style. So you can probably recognize yourself as being one of these types of person in the style that you relate to other people. And there are four of them, the first of which is healthy, secure attachment. And in that style of relating, people feel okay being on their own in solitude. And they also feel okay with people depending on them, depending on other people. So it's this normal, fluent type of human relationship that feels healthy and settled. But there are two main types of insecure attachment that are anxious attachment and avoidant attachment. People with anxious attachment may feel a lot of distress when their partner isn't there or when their partner requires space. And their history in childhood was often one of intermittent love, intermittent attention, not knowing what the next thing was going to be. So they carry that forward into their adult relationships and continue to look like, wow, God, where is love going to come from? I'm so rattled by this. I feel existentially threatened by my partner's absence. So that's one flavor of insecure attachment. The other main type of insecure attachment is avoidant attachment. And if you're following any relationship influencers online, you've probably heard about attachment theory and things pathologizing avoidant attachment, because a person with avoidant attachment is more likely to feel overwhelmed by connection, and they're more likely to ghost you. They're more likely, either in the moment or in a longer time frame, to peace out on the situation. They are overwhelmed by connection, so they push back from it. These two are great opposites, because the one person who feels overwhelmed by connection pushes away the person who feels distressed by abandonment. And they do that cycle a lot. So it's a really turbulent, vicious thing that happens. And it's very divisive between two partners.
Absolutely. And I know you're going to talk about the fourth one, but do you want to cover that first? And then I would love to kind of talk about some examples of what it looks like and what it feels like as we go through each of these different things. So the fourth one is...
Yeah, the fourth one is a combination of both. It's fearful avoidance. And there are some signs of anxious attachment where it doesn't feel good if the partner pulls away. And also it doesn't feel good to be in intense dependent connection, to have normal, healthy interdependence feels like overwhelm. And let me just back up one little second and say that someone who's in a purely avoidant attachment style usually didn't receive soothing comfort in childhood. That's the origin story on that, is that there isn't this embodied, warm, soothing human presence. They reached for that and it wasn't there. So they just turned off that part of their brain, literally. There's a part of them that turned off. They're like, okay, well, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to be independent and high achieving, and that's it. Then if you want to look at fearful avoidance, that's a little bit different. And it's a combination of two, but I think for the purposes of this conversation, it makes sense just to simplify it to those two, or talk about how we can address those things. And you mentioned how things feel.
Yes.
Yeah, it feels bad.
That's probably the simplest, easiest way to put it. It doesn't feel good. I'm not fulfilled. I'm not getting what I want. It's interesting when you talk about, okay, so if I am feeling that anxious attachment, okay, let's say, Jack, you and I, we're in a relationship and I need your reassurance constantly. Are you still there? Are you still here for me? Do you still love me? And it sounds like when it stems from our childhood of having kind of that intermittent love, that might feel like there might be some hope that you might like me, but I can't guarantee it. So I need to keep reaching for it. I need to keep, I need reassurance constantly that you're still there for me. I can't just trust that you'll be here for me tomorrow if you're here for me today. And then going to the avoidant, if you are avoidant, you would really feel overwhelmed. And the more that I push, the more overwhelmed you're going to feel by me. Mm-hmm. Probably going to want to run away and find somebody who feels more secure about themselves, which is going to make me feeling anxious, feeling even more anxious. See, for people can't be trusted. Yeah. People, I can't depend on people, so on. So putting that in comparison with a healthy relationship, then I am perfectly fine standing on my own 2 feet. Say you're on a business trip or you're taking care of other things. I'm okay. I feel very comfortable on my own. And I feel secure that you're still going to come back tomorrow. And also, when we are together, I am happy being together. I feel comfortable, I feel secure, and it's just that fulfilling type of a thing. So when you talk about how the anxious and how the avoidant are kind of a match made in hell, where they're opposites, but rather than helping each other, they set each other off with exactly the thing that hurts the most.
It's a perfect setup. Yeah. And it feels like an existential threat. On both sides of the equation, there's this, oh my gosh, I'm going to die feeling underneath it, that I'm going to be abandoned permanently. In childhood, abandonment is a profoundly existential problem. You are cast out and will die if you don't receive love and attention. You need to do everything you can to continue getting that. And then on the other side of the equation, with someone who has an avoidant attachment style, they're feeling such overwhelm that their nervous system can't handle what's incoming. It's like they want the love. They want all the love from their partner, but they don't have much capacity for it. So they have to take little bites of connection. It's like a person with a very small mouth, and they may want to connect with you, but they don't have the neurological capacity to feel that much connection, that much eye contact, that much openness. So they're in a situation where they're feeling completely overwhelmed, and the person who's anxious is more likely to feel starved in the absence of their partner.
That is so painful. And when you put it in terms of existential, this is my very being. When we feel unloved and unwanted, it goes to the very core of the basic question that most of us have. Am I lovable? Am I good enough? And we can have the feelings of I'm not lovable, I am not good enough, reinforced through unhealthy relationships over and over again. That just it's a pain and a depth of sorrow that is so deep. It's hard to find words to adequately describe it. Now, before we continue to go on, I do want to touch on, we talk about that relationships in the past influence relationships in the future. And, I'm an adult. My childhood is done. I mean, what happened, happened. So at this point, I can either blame my parents and say, wow, they did not give me love when I needed love. And now I'm doomed. My life is over. And I hate my parents. It's all their fault. But that won't help me or anybody else. But we can also say, wow, the challenges that I'm having now, there's a reason for it. And now that I understand the reason behind it, I can make a choice and I can choose to do something different. And I think it's important that we don't get stuck in modes of blaming or feeling hopeless. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited for you to help us now say, okay, let's say I grew up and I am anxious. Let's say I'm anxious or I'm avoidant or whichever. And now I'm more aware of where that came from. I recognize that there's something in me that is not fulfilled. Now, what do I do? Is there hope for me or is it just game over?
If you're like most people who have anxious attachment, you'll spend a long time getting that understanding. And I love that you share that, hey, we're not doomed here and we don't need to blame our parents, because both those things are very true. But it's easy to get stuck in a cycle of consuming information about relationships. A lot of my clients are in that mode of information consumption, like building our story that feels validating. And it is helpful to have that information. But people need three things when they are dealing with attachment issues, which is that understanding, and then new experiences, and then collaboration with their partner or other people. So we talked about attachment as being an existential threat to folks. And when we're in that state of existential threat, we're objectifying our partner. We're not collaborating with them. We're seeing them as the source of love or the source of overwhelm. and we're either pulling them or pushing them, and we're rarely seeing them. It's like, oh, here's this other person who has flaws and good things about them and their own needs. Because someone who's in a direly anxious state it's like they feel like they're drowning. To go unpack more feelings, it's like sitting in fire. It's an intolerable a degree of uncertainty, where it's like a scared child who is very uncertain about what's going to happen next. They badly need somebody to soothe them. And a secure partner can do that, can say, hey, actually, yeah, you're fine. You're fine. We're cool. I can provide you with assurance. It's easy to do that for somebody, actually. But where we get stuck is that information loop. And to move forward in it, you need new experiences in some way that disrupt the old ones. And that's what I do with my clients, is to have new experiences of the critical parts of relationships, such as setting boundaries, receiving, sitting with somebody when there's distance, when there's closeness. So to re-experience a lot of those things in real life with somebody else's nervous system there, without them needing anything from the client. The practitioner doesn't need anything from the client in the Somatica Method in which I'm trained. It's not that there's anything coming from this side other than a human nervous system that's well enough regulated. So it's a way to re-experience relationship in a safe container. And that's one of the things that you need.
Isn't that amazing? What an incredible service that you provide, where there is my experiences, and chances are I've had repeated experiences that have been negative. And in order to feel safe, I need to have a positive experience, which means I need to work with someone who is a safe place for me to be able to learn, to grow, to explore, and to make some mistakes.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're doing in a way that can help be a springboard for people to be able to go out and have a better experience in a future relationship. So that's fascinating. Is it okay if we go just a little bit about that information loop? When you mention that, I could see, I mean, how popular in magazines or on internet, they have a quiz, a relationship quiz, and people are so excited, and you poke the buttons and you find out more things about yourself. And I loved how you said we use these things to build our story. And each of us, whether we're aware of it or not, we have stories about ourselves, stories about the way the world works, stories about the way that relationships work, stories about the way people respond to us. And if we're just adding information to an incorrect story that we already have and building more and more layers, that's doing the opposite of healing. Don't you think?
Yes. And I did that a lot. I had a lot of therapy and a lot of self-help. So much of it was just building and refining that story. And I got so good at therapy that I could I was so insightful. I could talk in circles around my problem. I had such self-awareness. It was phenomenal. And I was still miserable and still playing out the same patterns. So awareness is cool. It helps us know what areas to make changes or what to try next. But we typically get in this rut of awareness is healing. And when I have the insight in my head, then things will be better somehow, that somehow it'll trickle down from our head into our body. And we end up operating from a place where our body's freaking out. We're still in that moment as a child of abandonment or overwhelm or whatever it was. We're trying to do our healing therapeutic work from a place of somatic overwhelm. Soma meaning the body, and somatic therapies being therapies that access healing through the body. So we're in this anxious state, and then trying to sort things out in our head. And really all our head can do is refine that story of victimhood or give us insights that we can immediately use to do something different. And if we get stuck in therapy for years, it's often building a complex, sophisticated identity that doesn't serve us. And it didn't serve me. So I love this experiential relationship type therapy that I practice, and it benefited me. You said it's a safe person to practice with. And that's the intention in large part. But one of the coolest things is it's not entirely safe. That's the intention, is to make things very contained and open and communicative. And then at the same time, it's real. It's real. There's a true relating that's going on where they're getting to be triggered a little. And there's so much healing and depth that can come from that. And that's so collaborative to work that out in real time, to know what's going on there, to know what's going on my side, because I am not a perfect, I'm not a godly human being whatsoever. I'm a fallible, as much as the rest. Sometimes I don't speak that well on camera. I definitely have my faults and limitations that I bring to the situation. So to have that in openness and honesty with someone is very connective. Therapy sometimes doesn't do that for us. It's cerebral. It's information oriented. You don't know who your therapist is. They're this person on a pedestal. So at its worst, therapy is going to the wise doctor to get the information you need. At its best, you're in a relationship, and studies show that the connection between the client and the practitioner or therapist is the most important part of the therapy, beyond the type of therapy that's being conducted. It's how the client and the therapist feel about one another. That's a great place to start. And I love the Somatica Method because it leans into that so heavily.
That is fascinating. I love that you brought up that it is not entirely safe. The real world and relationships are not entirely safe. It doesn't mean that nothing is ever going to go wrong. It doesn't mean that we're always going to see eye to eye. It doesn't mean that nobody's ever going to step on my toes again, or I'm going to step on somebody else's toes. But what we need to do is build up our strength and our resilience and our okayness about myself, that if I step on your toes, I can say, I'm sorry. And rather than having that be the end of the world, that now I'm a failure, it's just, I stumbled forward. And it's not the end of the world. That's quite beautiful.
It's cool to get to practice like that. I have a client who, when last we met, said something that was genuinely hurtful in a slight way to me. And I'm going to get to bring that to her and share that, because one of her core fears is hurting people and not knowing. So we'll sit with that together in the moment and see what comes up. And it's in service of her. Like, I'm cool. I'm here, stable enough. And we'll get to unpack that in the moment and see what comes up from her body when that fear is activated, and what passes through too. Because okay, here in this little relationship laboratory, she gets to experience in real time with a real person what her core fear is. It's a big theme. Ooh, all right, she genuinely hurt me. This is awesome. Just a little, but okay, we got material to work with. So to circle back around next time, it's possibly fantastic, because when things feel really, really safe and there's openness, communication, a lot of boundaries established, then you can just sit with another person with their eyes in that moment of whatever we fear, whatever we hope for. Things pass through very quickly at that point, when it's body-based, when we're not in our head. We're just like, hey, yeah, experience your worst nightmare right here in real time on Zoom. And it's tremendously healing.
Isn't that fascinating? The words of safety and fear keep coming up. That we have core fears, and we have a tendency to experience those. If I'm fearful of a particular circumstance or a particular flaw, it ends up, I experience it. It kind of comes to me. And it
Mhm.
could be, as you mentioned, an opportunity for me to learn and grow and to be able to move forward so that that is not a core fear anymore. It's, you know, something that might happen,
Mhm.
but it's not something I need to dwell on. Now, one of the things that you mentioned that you can help us with is we're having the same argument over and over again. How how do we fix it?
Yeah. Some of that insight can help about your own patterns and whatnot. But right there in the moment, it's very counterintuitive. Repairing an argument is it's not about apologizing immediately. So when somebody comes to us, when our partner comes to us with a complaint, we'll often say, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. It'll never happen again. I didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean it that way," or "I'm so sorry. It'll never happen again," are the go-tos for ending an argument, for trying to make things better. And actually, they make our partner feel really invalidated. So the first thing that's so counter, like, because when somebody's saying, you made a face,
I
it's
did.
an
I'm like,
audio
wait,
podcast.
what?
You're like, wait, what the heck? Yeah, yeah. It's like we're trying to make them go away in one way. You're like, no, no, it's okay. Your feelings are inappropriate because I didn't mean it that way. Or I'm saying sorry so quickly that we're just going to sweep this under the rug. And it's profound when our partner comes to us with something like that. And instead of saying, "Oh, I'm sorry," or "Oh, I didn't mean it that way," we hear them first. We really sit with how they feel. Like, "Oh, I see how that could be hurtful. Yeah, that probably felt pretty gross to you." And to sit with them in that for a moment is much more powerful than like there's a connection in place again. You're not saying, "Sorry, let's make it better right away." You're not explaining how you were thinking when you acted in that manner. You're just sitting with them saying, "Oh, yeah, I bet that's really frustrating." And then you let them speak more. So it's very centered. It's very stable to be in that. Like, okay, I'm going to hold my partner in this. I'm going to see their emotions. I'm going to let them unpack whatever they need to unpack and then proceed. So we let them speak whatever their truth is and empathize with the emotional content. And then we own it. We own whatever our part is. And I'll say, yeah, I can often think that I know what's best, or I get impatient. Whatever our part in it is, to own that and not even apologize for that, but just to acknowledge, yes, this is how I am. And it's pretty hard to change how we are. So we just offer them the resonance of that, yeah, there's truth in what you're saying. And at that point, things start to shift. There's a lot more ease at that point. Like if you just delivered those things to your partner, this empathy and this validation that, hey, you're not crazy. I actually am that way. That's what you're sitting across the table from, is someone who's impatient or thinks they know what's right. So when you get to that point in the conversation with your partner, there's a lot more ease. And then you can say, "Oh, well, I'm really sorry. And how can we do this differently so that it feels better next time?"
Wow. Okay. That was really cool. So, as you're unpacking the thing, and if you're listening to the story and thinking, okay, so the steps are first, I need to do this, second, I need to do this, and then at the end, I'm supposed to apologize. So, people who are trying to be efficient, you just skip to the end. Just say, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean it." Or I can flip it around and say, "You took it wrong. That was not my intent." And by skipping the important main part of this, you have unintentionally, perhaps, but invalidated your partner and dismissed feelings and dismissed really your own part. It doesn't feel like a sincere apology. It doesn't feel like I am sorry. It feels like I'm flipping it over and saying it's you. So we're going to go back and say, first thing we need to do is I need to hear you. So if there's something, Jack, that you are frustrated or hurt with what I'm saying, rather than dismissing and saying, you shouldn't be feeling that way, should just listen. And your feelings, whatever they may be, are valid. There might be more to the story that I can explain later, but right here, right now, whatever you're feeling is valid and fine. And now I'm also going to own that you probably feel that way. There's some truth. There's something that I did, and I own that. And I think the point of an apology is supposed to be owning it, not deflecting it, but owning it. And that takes some courage, and it takes some humility. Because especially if I think that if I'm not perfect, I have no value. If I'm not perfect, I'm not worthy. If I'm not perfect, I am unlovable. And now you just told me that I'm not perfect. That can just break somebody who's feeling fragile. So I'm going to be strong. I'm going to say, you know what? Truth is, I'm not perfect. I knew it all along. I was just hoping you thought I was. And I'm going to own it. And guess what? Usually when we own it, then we can grow from it. And the other person really doesn't expect perfection anyway. They just want somebody who will work with them. So thank you for giving this insight. This is huge. That one golden nugget, I think it'd be worth listening to this whole thing over and over again. So thank you. And for anyone who's listening, who's just intrigued with this idea of having a safe place to experience, Jack, would you like to share again your website and how people can get a hold of you?
Yes. And actually, I have that full conflict repair process on my website. If people want to sign up for that, it's a 10-step process. And those are the most profound elements. Those are the most counterintuitive parts of that, of recognizing your partner's emotions rather than saying sorry, and owning your peace before saying sorry. But it's a 10-step process. People are welcome to visit my website, jackbohannan.com. And to get that process, I'm pulling it up right here. You would go to jackbohannan.com/conflict sign up page.
Okay.
Yeah. Conflict sign up. Conflict
page.
sign up page. Yes.
Okay, perfect. We'll make sure to include that in the show notes as well. I think that's so helpful. Is there anything else that you want to make sure that we cover today before we close?
I would encourage people to come away from that informational loop and to lean into whatever therapy they're pursuing from a relational angle. Please talk to your therapist about how you feel about them in the moment and the suspicions that you might have about how they feel about you. It's like people have this voice going on in the back of their head where they're analyzing the situation that they're in, wondering what their therapist thinks. And to bring that to the forefront of therapy, to make therapy as relational as possible, is really effective. So regardless of whether you're working with somebody who's a practitioner of that modality like me, or if you're just bringing that to your therapist, unpacking whatever's going on in the moment is where healing occurs. It's where change can occur. That's the new experience. It's not talking about the information over and over with your therapist. It's that moment with them, how you're experiencing connection in that place, that time with that person who's hopefully skillful enough to hold you, probably skillful enough to hold you.
Wow, what a fascinating thing. And how smart it is for you to bring that up. That as we're having a conversation out loud, there's often another conversation going on inside. And when we feel safe enough that we can share that part too, then we can really collaborate and be able to really communicate in a way that is helpful and useful. Beautiful insight. Thank you. And thank you for visiting with me today.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. Thank you for having me.
In closing, I'd like to share a quote by John Bowlby. He said, "Attachment is a deep and enduring emotional bond that connects one person to another across time and space. Today, I invite our listeners to heal our relationships and create healthy, secure, fulfilling attachments. See you next time on Linda's Corner. Thanks for tuning in to Linda's Corner podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share it with your friends to help us inspire even more listeners. Be sure to visit hopeforhealingfoundation.org for free and affordable resources to help you overcome life's challenges. And explore healingbreathworkdetox.com, where you'll find transformative tools for deep inner healing and lasting change. Also, don't forget to check out my books, Crushed, A Journey Through Depression, and You Got This, an action plan to calm fear, anxiety, worry, and stress. Your journey to hope, healing, and happiness starts here.